You are listening to Wicked Psychotherapists, a podcast where two psychotherapists show you that taking care of and learning about mental health doesn't have to be wicked hot.
Everyone, this is Tanya.
Hi, this is Erin, and welcome to Wicked Psychotherapists.
Today we have an amazing movie, big shocker, that we're going to be discussing. This is a classic that didn't get enough credit for its time, but it has an all-star cast. It's just a really fun story with a lot of mental themes. So today we're going to be talking about the 1990 movie Mermaids with Cher, which is our favorite. We Cher. We also got a little bit of a Winona Ryder theme going on here. Yeah, so we love everything about this movie. So let's talk about some of the things that make this movie, or the things that really have it standing out as just a great movie. I already mentioned the all-star cast. There's also Christina Ricci, a very tiny Christina Ricci, who is adorable and great acting, good storyline. This movie is also set and was shot in Massachusetts. I think it was a fictional town called Eastport. If anyone knows of that, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I know I live here, but I've never heard of it. That also was a great tie there that I wasn't actually aware of until I was reading about it. But yeah, it's set in 1960s. For the most part, the entire movie is in Massachusetts, and there's a lot of mother-daughter interactions, relationships, sibling relationships, themes of coming of age, but also emotional relatability, emotional intimacy, being able to, express your feelings, be who you are in a family, intergenerational trauma. There's so many themes in here. It's packed. But yeah, and I also think this, like we were saying, we don't think this movie is very well known. Whenever I mention this movie, people don't really seem to remember it. Maybe they remember, oh yeah, it wasn't Cher in a movie, or she was one of her movies kind of thing, but they don't really remember it too much. So I think that's kind of a shame. We want to...
Why not talk about a movie that nobody knows? Here we go.
But I do think if you get a chance, go back and watch this. It's probably, I don't know where it's at, but if you search for it, you can find it somewhere,
I found it on Prime. So I'm sure it's other
Prime. Okay, most people have Prime, so yeah. But I think Cher and Winona Ryder and Christina Ricci just make a great pairing in this. They all play, like, Cher plays the mother, and Christina Ricci and Winona Ryder play the daughters. And I just think their chemistry is really great together. They just really pull it off as, like, a very connected family, but kind of in a dysfunctional way with their coping skills. In terms of how you first experienced this movie, what did you think of it when you were younger, and then maybe kind of now seeing it again? Because you did rewatch it. I did not, unfortunately, but I have watched it as an adult. So has there been anything that's changed since that time that you noticed more of, or any themes?
Yeah, I honestly don't even know if I remembered the movie that much, except that the dancing in the kitchen and that Winona Ryder was in it and Cher was in it. I remember the costume that Cher wore for the New Year's Eve party, of course, the mermaid costume, the namesake of the movie. But I honestly did not remember. I feel like I've watched it a couple times as a kid, because I know I've shared that my mom was obsessed with Cher and she just thought she was really cool. Watching it again as an adult, of course, I'm seeing it in a different lens. And I know I've said before, like, when you're younger, you always find like one or two characters that you feel like you're like, like I always was probably drawn to Winona Ryder, like, just, all right, so she's very similar in age, similar, attitude or whatever, feeling, and the family dynamic. And I still did feel for her watching the movie, because you're thinking, like, what a selfish person, her mom is. But it's all
Flax.
Yeah, Mrs. Flax, as she calls her too. She doesn't even call her mom. She's like, because she's narrating this movie, and she just calls her mom, by their name. But I did like it. There were some parts I was like, it could have been a little shorter. I was thinking that while I was watching it. I was like, there was a lot in it. It was an hour and 50 minutes. So there were parts that I was like, this could have been cut a little bit. Maybe we don't need all of this. But
I didn't remember how long it was. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
long movie, especially in today's standards. It seems like it just is really, but it was good. And I did appreciate the dynamics of like the two sisters and then the mom, and there was a lot of different psychological themes I felt like with the relationship with the daughters and the mom and her relationships with men. And so then also the daughters of how they have to portray themselves or what they want to be portrayed, to be seen.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think I definitely experienced it as something like, ooh, that was kind of fun, but there was something I couldn't quite grasp that I really did relate to as a kid. And I was like, oh, I know I relate to this. But then as I got older, I started to realize, oh, okay, yeah, Cher kind of, I can relate to some points in that with Cher as my mom maybe growing up, not in the same ways, but maybe with some interactions. And I can relate to the older daughter Charlotte and the younger daughter Kate, like in various points in my life with wanting to rebel by being like very straight-laced because my mom was not straight-laced at all. And also by kind of being an escapist like Kate, and kind of being like, I'm going to be a mermaid kind of thing. And I'm just going to be sweet because that's kind of how I get by. And then I'm just going to escape and cope in other ways.
Right.
And it really is interesting to see the relationship with Charlotte and Rachel, the mom, how much I think tension is between there because Charlotte is really just craving some form of stability to the point where she is like obsessed with Catholicism, which is like a very well established ritualized religion. And mom is like, why do you even do that? We're Jewish,
Yeah.
like, what are you doing? But she's really looking for that structure, for that stability because, the mom has moved them around. Every time there's a problem or something where she feels like she's getting too close to somebody, she moves them immediately. So she doesn't deal with issues very well. She kind of just avoids them. And then I think there's this desire for both of the kids to have roots and to just be stable. I think there's just so many telling themes in here that are played out so well.
And it's hard too, as the kids who are always moving, like, okay, well, are we going to stay here a whole school year? Or is mom going to break up with somebody and then we're going to have to move or we're going to have to become the new kid? So the stability for both of them is like, one is I'm going to be just really pure and really learn everything, because she always has a book about like the saints or about, religion that Charlotte's reading. And then, and then, the little sister, Kate, she's just always, she knows she's good at swim. So she's always going to join a swim team or just do that. So that is her sense of normalcy and sense of belonging. No matter where they go, no matter how chaotic it might be, they might not know what state they're in, what town, how the high school or elementary school is going to treat them. At least they have those things those are their identities. Because mom can be very chaotic and you don't know where she's going to work. You don't know what she's going to do or how that's going to become, affect everything.
Yeah, and it amazes me the adaptability of the kids, and actually even Rachel, the mom, Mrs. Flack, she does find stuff that works, but it's just kind of in the meantime and not knowing what it is, I think is very destabilizing and not knowing where they're going to be. And you're right. I think those are great anchors that, Kate has swimming and Charlotte has this like obsession with religion, especially Catholicism. And I really do feel badly for the kids, when there's kind of a sense of when Charlotte's talking about, we've had this many moves and this many years, and every time there's an issue, we pick up and leave kind of thing. It makes you feel like, oh, these kids really haven't known much in the way of stability at all. It's been really tough for them.
It's difficult in real life too. Like when you see that, and it affects, like a lot of times people don't think that, like, oh, well, kids can adapt. But just think about how difficult it is always being the new kid, how difficult, like just trying to be like, all right, let me try to catch up what they've already been learning on this semester or this year, or, just every little thing. It can be very draining and hard for them.
And not knowing if you can talk to these people when you move away, because it wasn't, and this was set in like 1963 or so, like around when the assassination of JFK. And so there was not really, maybe a phone number or something like that, but it wasn't really the same now where you can just kind of, friend someone on social media and talk. And so there was a lot of things that were taken away from them that could have been helpful in them creating relationships and emotional stability. And, and then I also think looking at Rachel, the mom, you also start to see a little bit of her side as well, especially when Kate nearly drowns. She is really trying to do the best that she can, but she has a lot of flaws. She hasn't been able to work through these things because she also had Charlotte at a young age at 16, and it doesn't sound like she had much support from her own family. So this is what she managed to do. Like, okay, if there's a problem, we pick up and we leave and we start over, right?
Yeah, and she doesn't really
she adapted to.
And there's no mention of Rachel, Mrs. Flax's family. So did they abandon her after she became pregnant at 16? Is that part of why she constantly is on the move? Because she's trying to find that connection, trying to find that family. When we see that in the movie with, when she starts dating the guy Lou, who's very kind and fun and even questions when they're having dinner, when he's having dinner with them the first time and he's making this meal and doing everything. And then they all just go their own places. No one's sitting at the table. And he's
They're all separate.
Yeah. And he's like, is this what you do? Is this how you normally eat? And they're like, yeah, this is what, like looking at him like he's nuts. Like, yeah, we always just have like little tiny pieces of stuff and nothing's ever a real meal because and that's very telling too, because everything's portable. You can take everything to go. You don't have to, there's no huge commitment of setting places and like serving the meals and eating with utensils. You can just eat it with your hands and go. So that in itself too.
Great connection there.
So it was kind of interesting when he's like, what? And slowly wears him down. The kids are like, this is awesome. We want a meal. We want to sit at a table. And Rachel is like, this is so, like just even doing that, she's probably like, this doesn't feel right. What if I have to escape? What if, this? So by just allowing that is just showing you that they're all starting to feel safe. And this is the normalcy too.
Yeah, the kids definitely do. But Rachel, the mom, Miss Cher, it's so hard calling her Rachel. She's Cher, but she is uncomfortable with it. Like, and she kind of is like, what are you doing trying to take over? Like, these are my kids kind of thing. And she starts to see this pull of like, oh, they're being introduced to stability and I can't uphold that. She kind of freaks out a little bit.
Yeah.
Pushes him away. And that's because he represents this very stabilizing force, this practicality of like family connection. And they just have never had that because of all the dynamics going on.
Yeah, there's one scene, I can't remember where she was, at work or somewhere, but they all decide to paint the bedroom, like at Lou's house.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like beautiful and it's under the sea. It's just so fun. And the three of them are having so much fun doing it. And then Cher's character, Mrs. Flax, comes in and she's like so unhappy about that. And that's probably the same time when she has that conversation too. Like, what are you doing? We're not going to have this room. This is, these are my kids. You're making them feel safe and they'll want to stay. What if, and she's probably thinking 4 steps ahead about what if when we break up, because we're going to break up because that's what happens with every other person I've been with. Not realizing like, but what if we stay? What if he doesn't leave? What if we continued to stay a couple? She hasn't ever felt that. She's never been the person that people choose to be with.
And I wonder if that is maybe starting with, we don't know because she doesn't say much about, Rachel doesn't say much about her family, but maybe that's with her family. She felt very abandoned. And from that point after was like, I can't rely on anyone. No one is going to help me. And this was kind of like her motto that pushed her forward. It may not seem like it, but she also is not wanting her kids to get used to that so they can be like extra hurt in this. But also I think she also has this air of like, I need to have control over this because we all need to be a unit and nobody else can come in here because then you might have control. And I don't want that. I can't do that. I can't trust that. So a lot of trauma, a lot of things that probably likely happened with Rachel and her parents and their parents and like intergenerational trauma, right? And the themes are spilling out. Charlotte was born when Rachel was 16 and she didn't seem to have a lot of support. So she had to make do with what she had.
Yeah.
And the coping skills, kind of picking up and leaving and saying, well, I got to rely on myself. And for her, that meant a new place.
Yeah. So just even by saying that, it feels like her parents or family nobody was there to really help her and support her and guide her of like, hey, this is what it looks like. So even the fact that it does not seem like she ever grew to, well, I have to cook my kids a breakfast. It can't just be a bunch of marshmallows put on a stick for, like you can't have a marshmallow kebab every night.
I forgot about that.
And, like just, and, it's fun to have like parties and dance and stuff, but you also have to, like, what are the staple comforts? And, it does seem like the kids were craving some kind of stability with that. It also seems like Rachel was never taught this is how you do it.
Yeah, she was more kind of playing a bit of a friend role as opposed to a mother role because maybe she never really had that. Maybe she, wasn't really shown that, how to do that. And she just thought, well, we're a unit, we have to get along. And that can be really, again, kids may feel like, oh, that's really cool. I wish I had that. But kids crave security.
Mhm.
They need to have that in order to thrive as a base level. If they don't have that, they are not okay.
Yeah, they want the
And
structure.
yeah. They may rebel against it, but like they know, like I remember as a kid craving structure. And I used to say things because I'd hear my friends saying, oh, I have to be home at a certain time. And I'd be like, oh yeah, me too. I would make up that I had a curfew. Meanwhile, like nobody really knew if I was gone or, you know what I mean? And like, that's not a great feeling for a kid. It doesn't feel good. There really is something to say like, oh, somebody wants me home. Even if it's like, oh God, I got to go home. I can't have fun with my friends. It still makes you feel secure. Like I have a place to be and somebody wants me safe.
Somebody's going to notice that I'm not coming home for dinner, or these are the people I'm hanging out with, or this, like, so different things to be noticed and to be seen. It doesn't really sound like those kids were getting that with their mom.
Yeah. And I mean, it's funny because Charlotte shows in her immaturity with knowledge on sexual matters. She doesn't understand that you can't get pregnant by a kiss and immaculate conception. And she ends up, when she kisses the caretaker of the convent, is it Joe? Joe, is that his name? I think so, Joe. And she goes to the doctor and she thinks she's pregnant. And the doctor's like, you're still a virgin. What are you worried about? Like, she doesn't have this, her mom wasn't even informing her about sex, but here she is. She has these kind of different boyfriends and she knows she got pregnant at 16 and it's kind of a little bit maybe irresponsible to not be informing her. I mean, because her daughter is now 15.
Right.
And maybe she just thought because Charlotte was so into Catholicism and maybe she thought she just would never really be interested in that. There's just basics that are getting missing that you would get hopefully from a healthy relationship with a parent.
Even the mom after, after Charlotte and the caretaker Joe, and the watchtower or whatever it is, she comes back and she's like, oh, well, I guess I should have had the birds and the bees talk with you. But instead of just being like, oh, you're 15 and with a 26-year-old, something's not normal with this. She just makes a joke about like, oh, well, I guess I should have had the talk. But yeah. And there's so much to unpack here too. But again, she's emotionally immature. And her daughter just about drowned. So the other daughter, so there's a lot going on, but it's also, she's not always the best, she's not really always the best maturity wise for her parent.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that incident where Kate, the little sister, almost drowns there's so much to that because Winona, Charlotte is put in charge, the older daughter, to watch Kate because her mom is out. Charlotte is feeling like, I want to just let go. I don't want to be the responsible one. They're dancing around in their mom's clothes, drinking wine, and Charlotte doesn't notice that Kate is guzzling the wine and getting drunk. Not to say that this is all her, because she was only 15, but at the same point, she was entrusted with her little sister. Then they go and explore the convent, and Charlotte is irresponsible in that she kind of mimics some of these things that almost gets her sister killed. And I also think there's another theme in there with the sister almost drowning, and she's a swimmer. And I know she was drunk and she was 9 years old. I think it's kind of symbolic of like, she thinks she's a mermaid, but really when the reality of the situation of what's going on around her and she doesn't have control over these factors, she actually couldn't even like.
And I was seeing it differently too. I was seeing it, her sister, Charlotte, who's always taken this caregiver role, almost like a mother to her. So Charlotte and Kate have this very tight sister relationship. And Kate is she's like, I'm going to go look for rocks by the water. And, she's walking in this area and it's slipping and stuff. And she screams a couple of times. usually Charlotte would probably jump up and get her. She'd be right there. But Charlotte's way up in the clock tower doing her own thing, not paying attention to her sister. And her sister screams. She screams a few times. And then she falls. And who finds her but nuns who Charlotte has idolized and watched and probably wanted to be one for most of her life before this moment of losing her virginity in the clock tower. So to me, I feel like there's a lot of different things happening in that one scene besides just her, wanting to be a mermaid and a good swimmer. I think it's like her sister, her protector wasn't there. And then the people that found or, it's the nuns, and it's just like so many, like the guilt, it's a lot of things.
Well,
and again,
that's actually, that's what I was referring to, actually. I was thinking that's a part of it, but it is very much that the sister is, who was overly responsible was not there.
Yeah.
Like there was the reality of the situation was that there's two kids here. One is like so curious about sex and getting that talk is not really understanding. And mom's not really taking it seriously. And then, here's a daughter who's, the younger one is drunk and is by a river and is, screaming and everything. And they're like, it's the reality of the situation.
And there's no
they're
parents
not really in the mermaid.
No parents at all. Like, and that's also what I think is a lot of this movie. And I don't know if it was intended to. It's just like how these poor kids were just so neglected. By like how so many adults had let them down. So from the father that Charlotte just idolized that was never going to be around and never was there. And who knows what Kate's dad is, they just referenced him quickly that he was also a swimmer. But it's the first adult they really, besides their mom, that was really let into their sphere that didn't let him down was Lou. And that's, but it's not his responsibility to, at this moment, because he's kind of like, am I allowed to overstep or not?
He's not? And she's kind of pushing
away. So it's weird because Charlotte is forced to be like almost the second adult in this family, but she's also a kid. And she wants to be, it's too many roles for these poor kids. And it is very neglectful for them. And there is a lot of like abuse, but it's hard because, Cher's character is so emotionally immature and so selfish and just trying to survive herself.
Yeah, you see that with her. You find a likability with her.
Yeah, you understand why she's especially when she says, I was 1 year older than you are now. You're like, oh, that makes sense.
She's been just trying to get by. And it really kind of confronts all these issues. And Lou, the boyfriend, really is, I think, part of the catalyst in that and kind of being able to confront it as opposed to just, getting mad at each other and saying, we're going to move and this moves on you, kind of thing. After that happens, the whole town knows what you were doing up in the belt.
I don't even know how that even happened. I'm sure the mom is just exaggerating with that.
It seems like a small town.
Yeah. Well, they might have been because they were kind of gossipy at the shoe store, weren't they? Like they were like very
And I mean, when they're telling the story, they were probably like, well, nobody was around, and then they're like, why wasn't anybody around? Oh, her sister was supposed to be watching her. Where was her sister? It kind of just unravels like that, but. It kind of seems like a small town Massachusetts, and I think they're, I was talking to Aaron before because I did not realize this, and this is probably so obvious to most people who have watched this or maybe just listening to this are like, yeah, they can connect this. But I never understood why it was called Mermaids. I was like, oh, that's like a fun title because, like you said, Cher dresses up as a mermaid, and the little sister kind of wants to be a mermaid, and I see that symbolically, and I love symbolism, so I'm always kind of drawn to that. But, I just realized probably recently, and I mean very recently, that mermaids are, Kate, the sister, is kind of trying to escape, by saying like, oh, I'm going into my own world, I'm swimming. But they all are in their own way. They all are trying to be mermaids in that way, right? Like not literally, but, like in their own way, they're all trying to make it and understand how can we get through this when there's so much going on, and how can we, kind of, these fictional characters, or these, fantasized characters, they're kind of half human, half fish. How can we manage, And of course, I don't mean that literally. It's just very much what are the things that we can do because we're kind of weird. We have all this trauma, all this baggage, and now we've got to make this work in a world where people are people and we kind of swim in the depth, and so that made sense
Yeah.
to me, and that resonated, I think, better. And it was like, oh, I never got that.
I would have ever put that together. But it does make sense,
Yeah.
too, and it's almost like trying to pretend we're okay.
Yeah, definitely. And it's, this movie is so fun though too, because I mean, okay, Cher, like, and she dresses up, and we love Cher. We love Winona Ryder. We love Christina Ricci. We love them all. I even love the actor who plays Lou, and I can't think of his name right now, but I like him.
I think it's Bob Hoskins or something like that.
Yeah,
But he was really good.
He's
And
nice.
something too, I noticed, like, in the movie, Cher's in her 30s, her early 30s, supposedly. like if she's
Oh, in the movie.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, wow. Okay,
no, like in the movie, because if she, but the Lou
yeah,
character,
she's like 31.
so the Lou character looks so much older than her. And her
Mhm.
other boss, like other people, like, the boss in the old state that she was in before they moved also looked so much older than her, too. I wonder if that's
Yeah.
also like a self-esteem, self-worth thing with her. It's like, all right. But I mean, but Lou is just so kind. And I don't think age or how he looked really mattered, because he was just such a light to her.
Looking for like the superficial things. It sounds like maybe there was a part of her that was, maybe she associated older men with being more stable.
Oh,
And maybe she
maybe.
kind of thought, but like then when things would get too serious, she would run.
Yeah.
But we know that they do end up staying. The Rachel, the mom, agrees to
Mhm.
stay to try it out for a year, because Charlotte gets really mad and is like, no, I like this place. And I think,
Yeah.
by that point, Rachel understands, oh, yeah, maybe this is good for them. And I can't just run away based on my own feelings of how this needs to be. I have to consider their emotional
Mhm.
needs.
Yeah, which is different,
and
which she's
see
never
that.
really slowed down to do that, because it's always like, all right, let's put all the luggage and everything on top of the car. They're still there. They're
Yeah.
now making roots, starting to make friends in high school, just not being the new kids or in the elementary school, and just having these connections. And it just seems like that's what they've been missing, is the stability and figuring out how to have a family outside of just the three of them.
And how to just be themselves, because they kept having to, the kids kept having to bottle up this emotional turmoil, and the mom was just, avoiding it.
Mhm.
Rachel was just avoiding it, and would get, when Charlotte would say anything, Kate just didn't say anything.
Right.
She was just off swimming. But, Charlotte would be like, oh, I'm the worst mom ever, and would kind of like turn it around.
Yeah.
So she didn't have to face it.
Yeah, well,
it's like
'cause-
such an avoidance
Well, because then
tactic.
that also, then you're so great.
Mhm.
So then,
It makes you look like the bad person.
Yeah, it's
like
very
you're like
manipulative.
awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that classic kind of case, like turning it around. I mean, it is really nice. It's comforting to see them just kind of dancing and setting up the kitchen table at the
Yeah.
end. And
That's so
it's
iconic.
probably-
That last scene, I think, is like the most known scene in the
Yeah.
movie too. It's just it's fun. And it's like, okay, so no matter all the trauma that they've been through, all the stuff, it's just three people playing fun music and just making their silly little kebabs still, just whatever
Mhm.
they're doing. It's just fun.
Mrs. Flax kebabs. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's really nice. Like I really got a lot of comfort from that. And knowing that, it's not going to be a boyfriend who's going to be the main point of view in Rachel's life. Instead, it'll be like, if this adds to the family, but we're going to do the work here. And it sounds like Lou is a pretty good force for that.
Mhm.
So you have this hope that like, okay, they're going to stay there,
Yeah.
and Rachel and Lou are going to make something work, and some things will be repaired. And that's a great ending. I love that. And I love the bathtub scene, the Cher dressed up as a mermaid, and they all get in and just have fun.
Yeah.
It's really cute.
Well, and it's also kind of an ode to Cher too, with the big over the top headpiece, the wig, and
She
everything.
loves her headdresses.
Sees and recognizes Cher. It's just she can pull off very extravagant costumes and wigs and still look great. She doesn't look like she's like this crazy fool.
Yeah, she pulls it off. I mean, she was on a naval ship in, I'm gonna say, a thong bikini. I mean, and looked amazing. And everybody was like, "Holy crap!" Like she can do that, and she can still sing. I mean, that's. I always picture Cher like that, and in her headdresses. I'm like, that's iconic. Cher.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, anything else we want to add before we get to the fun question? Remember, we're gonna add in these fun
this
questions.
is new. Tanya has questions.
Yeah.
So, no, I mean, I guess, I mean, I did like it. I mean, film from 1990, and I thought it was good. Like I said, there was like some parts that rewatching, I was like, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so long. But there was a couple like
Maybe it needed
a good editing because I did watch it at night. So I may have fallen asleep and had to rewatch the same scenes over a few times. But
That's dedication.
that is
there.
dedication. Yeah, I do think it's good. I mean, I love the three main characters, and they're just really good actors.
Yeah, I do too. And they all kind of have, maybe it's just because they all have dark hair, but to me, they all kind of, they just fit well together, like
Yeah.
appearance-wise, chemistry-wise, and how they work together. I
Yeah.
just love it. Yeah. But yeah, so to me, it's a classic. I didn't get a chance to rewatch it again, but I know I will at some point in the future, and I'll just love it again. But okay, so my fun question,
I'll debate. No, just kidding.
debatable, but so if given the chance to live as a mermaid for, let's say, 24 hours
Okay.
versus being able to go up into space, which would you choose?
Oh, a mermaid. I mean, space seems pretty awesome and enormous, and it just scares the bejesus out of me. Like just like what it, because they're so.
The enormity.
The ocean scares me too, but I think I would just stay by very bright colored fish. I wouldn't go too deep. I would just, find all
your plan.
Yeah, find all the coral and maybe a manta ray become friends with, but I would not hang out with the sharks or all the dark, weird-eyed fish at the bottom.
The ones that's in the deep.
Yeah, I would say
No,
I would
that's a
stay
good
I would
plan.
stay so I can still see in the light. It wouldn't be too scary. Maybe, if I was in Florida, I'd hang out with a manatee. But yeah, I think it would be fun for a day. What about you?
Yeah, I think I would also choose a mermaid because I've always wanted to be a mermaid. I think your plan of staying near brightly colored fish and then not near those like deep dwellers is amazing. And I will copy that and say, yes, I would. I would be a little scared of like being eaten by a fish, but in this magic scenario, we would come back as humans anyway.
And also on all the shows, anything like that, the mermaids always seem like they're friends with the fish. So I don't know if they can talk to them and say, don't eat me, sharks, please.
That'd be amazing. If we could just talk to them.
Be friends with a whale, but then that'd be really cold. So I'd rather stay in the warmer water if I was a mermaid for a day.
Yeah. No, some good points. No, it's really well thought out. I was just going to say, oh, it looks fun. And you were like, no, I would stay here in a whole strategy.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to be too cold. Come on.
No, that's good. You got it planned out. I absolutely would love to go to space too, but I think that may be a reality in our lifetime. So I'm kind of going to choose the mermaid experience because I don't think that would necessarily be something, but I would love to go to space too. Like I would actually love to do both, but I think space is actually more like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It may be coming up in our lifetime.
It might.
And we're on a mermaid theme.
So, I mean, space. I mean, I love anything sci-fi, but I don't know. The uniform just seems so heavy. So.
Yeah. And it's probably not pleasant living. And those astronauts that are stranded up there right now are.
Oh my gosh. You feel so bad.
Urine.
Oh my God. Those poor people.
I know. I feel really bad for them. And it's scary to think about that. But I would still go up on like a recreational.
Yeah. If you knew you weren't being stuck there for years.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess you take a risk, but I don't think those are designed for like the recreational ones. It's just designed to like come right back. I would do that in a second if I could afford
So if anyone wants to
amazing.
loan $500,000 for Tanya's dream.
Yeah. Or just gift it. That's amazing. Yeah. But yeah, no, that sounds fun. Yeah. So now you know how we feel about becoming mythical creatures in space. But yeah, we hoped you enjoyed this. This was really fun. This is, one of those fun movies. We hope you watch this or have seen it. If not, please go watch it. It is really, really amazing, especially if you relate to some of these themes. Or just curious about Cher in a mermaid outfit. Go for it.
Yeah. Or don't be confused though, thinking she's going to be a mermaid the whole time.
I think I did think that when I would see the previews when I was little. I was like, oh.
Because she's on it. Like she's all like, mermaid-ish, like on the cover.
Yeah.
Of like
all decked out.
When you went to Blockbuster to rent it.
Yep. Oh my God. Yeah, Blockbuster. I think there's only one in the country, and I think it's closing.
Yeah, I think it's in Bend, Oregon. I watched one of those documentaries about it. What a weird documentary.
And it's like not for you can't rent movies. It's just like a museum, right? Like kind of you can just go and
I don't
explore it,
know.
or can you?
I don't
I don't
know.
know. Maybe you can, but yeah, that would be interesting.
But now we
that
have,
VHS
we have
made a
so many
comeback.
different things now to rent movies.
I wonder if there's people that are, those
Still have their,
old school
Yeah.
technology or the classics, but to me they were a pain in the butt. They used to get eaten up, and you'd
rewind it, you get charged. Ugh, what a
charge like a
pain.
$90 fee or something.
Come
It was
on,
insane.
Blockbuster. Yeah.
Like we felt bad for you a little bit, but now we kind of
Yeah, now we're mad at you.
That, so
Yeah.
yeah.
But you don't have to go to Blockbuster to watch this. You can go on Prime
No.
or something.
Definitely in many other places.
Mhm.
But yeah, we hope you enjoyed our discussion. Let us know what you think. If we forgot anything, or if you want to add in anything, any suggestions, we love hearing from you guys. You've been so great.
Or if this
As
made you think of a different movie, if you're like, hey, speaking of Cher, you guys haven't done Mask yet, or you haven't done this Winona Ryder movie or whatever. So let us know.
Yes, absolutely. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wicked Psychotherapists. We're also on Facebook at The Wicked Psychotherapists. Subscribe, follow us, write us a review, give us 5 stars, and don't forget, stay wicked.
And keep your mind well. All right. Have a good week. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. See you next week.